Solar value 42 presents us the Three of Spades. The Three of Spades is the artist card. It's the card of creativity, 3 in the realm of lifestyle, work, and variety, 3. So here we've got a card that, even though presented with a rather challenging life path, because it's sitting on the Saturn line and it has a number of cards still on that Saturn line in front of it, especially like in the early years of their life, because they have 9 of hearts in Mercury, 7 of clubs in Venus, and a 5 of diamonds in Mars. That means up until the age of 39, they'll be presented with those, or they are running under those influences. In order to understand threes, Robert Kemp says that we need to look at the aces, because 3 is an odd number and so is an ace, and the threes come out of the stability and the satisfaction and the union of the two, and now it's another card that is like really aiming at growth and aiming at expansion. And as with all threes, very mental cards. And as with all threes, the downside is indecision or worry, because they can't choose. And also in terms of careers, threes are good at managing several jobs at the same time, because they can get bored very easily. And that's also something true for the fives, for instance. And here, remember, they have a 5 of diamonds in Mars. When we look at our notes, let's have a look what we find. The Three of Spades is one of the most dynamic and internally complex cards in the deck. It belongs to a rare category of individuals who carry a dual sense of purpose, one spiritual, one practical, often caught between responsibility and freedom, duty and desire. Their path is rarely linear, but always significant. Always significant. Very strong people with a very strong creative drive, and creation means more. Creation means doing things that haven't been done before, a path that haven't been walked before, and decisions that haven't been made before. You know, the Two of Spades was more partnership, but now it's like versatility, creativity, several things at the same time. And threes are very good people of handling that. When we look at the position of the Three of Spades, we'll find that it is the Jupiter card on the Saturn line. So it's a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. And it has 3 cards in front of it also on that Saturn line. And we'll be going through them one by one just now. So let's start with the first one. And that is the Mercury card, how the mind of that Three of Spades works. Here we find a 9 of hearts. It's emotional intelligence and universal love. This placement brings a natural understanding of the deeper emotional layers in others, often before they're even expressed. Communication tends to carry a quiet power, especially when tied to healing, closure, or helping others release emotional baggage. Communication, Mercury, the power is when it's tied to healing, 9, closure, 9, helping others, 9, release, 9, emotional baggage, hearts. But this gift comes with a responsibility to not manipulate others' emotions, but to serve as a wise interpreter of them. So here's a lovely emotional power that underpins the mind of the Three of Spades, and can interpret them and can help other people do that. And once again, they are very mental with that 3 energy, with the Three of Spades. And because they govern the Spades realm, where it's about lifestyle, where it's about health, where it's about counsel, spirituality, they can be good counselors in that regard. When we move to Venus, we find a card that is tricky because it is the card of spiritual knowledge. So it's a mental card, so another mental aspect here. On the low side, it's the card of negative thinking. So in relationships, there's always a risk of them thinking negatively about this. Perhaps because the way they are wired, difficult to pin down. But it also gives them a sharp inner compass. And relationships for them are not just about pleasure, they're about principle, clubs, spirit, 7 inside. The placement indicates challenges in reconciling heart and mind, often creating tension when belief systems clash with emotional needs. However, once balanced, this person becomes a pillar of intellectual integrity in all their personal connections. A pillar of intellectual integrity. Doesn't say much about the love life of that 3 of Spades, which could be, once again, compromised by a mental approach. It's almost like having Venus in Gemini. So that sort of you process your emotions through the mind. And that is also, if I look forward a little bit here, that Jack of Clubs that is greeting us under Saturn can throw that in as well, because that is a very inventive and very creative, mentally creative card, but it's in Saturn, it could be a bit tricky. So there's a connection certainly between that 7 of Clubs in Venus and the Jack of Clubs in Saturn. Not to be too mental and not to be pessimistic. Yes, there will be losses because the 7 speaks about losses, but it's more about disappointments in a way in Venus in relationships because of their sharp inner compass. So they don't tolerate, I would say, dishonest people in relationships. And they require the intellectual integrity. This person becomes a pillar of intellectual integrity in all their personal connections. But in order for that to happen, they need to balance their belief system and their emotional needs. When we come to Mars, we find the 5 of Diamonds. It's the planet of drive and will, Mars, and it brings the ever-shifting 5 of Diamonds. This energy fuels an ongoing urge to explore new values, new investments, and new paths in both career and personal life. It makes the 3 of Spades an independent and restless spirit, often unafraid to walk away from what no longer holds meaning. This can lead to remarkable growth, but also demands conscious reflection before burning bridges. The 5 of Diamonds is seeking values, looking for values. Mars does it with the necessary drive and conviction and willpower. So here's that ongoing urge to explore new values, new investments. But if that Mars energy is too strong, it may result in an ongoing quest, but not really in results. And that says, it can lead to remarkable growth, but also demands conscious reflection before burning bridges. And not just before burning bridges, but conscious reflection in general, because that's a call for all 5s that are very outwardly oriented to always check back with what they build behind them, so what they build behind themselves. Because if in your quest to experience new things, to learn new things, to grow in your seeking for those things signified by the individual suits, you can lose sight of order and structure. And if your search is unsuccessful, you come back home with nothing to your name. And here, if the Mars energy is too energetic with that 3 of Spades, if it's too artistic, if it's too carried away, too versatile, and if it doesn't build order and structure behind it, then it may set itself up for disappointment. However, when we come to Jupiter, we find a very strong card. It's the card of self-mastery. We've done a lane change. We're now on the Uranus line. And here we find the Queen of Spades, a masterful, disciplined, and self-reliant force. Jupiter grows what it touches. So here, it's almost a call, so if you're at the beginning with that Three of Spades, at the beginning of that spade suit, but then your growth actually comes from a card that is much higher up in the spade suit. And the card that says, master yourself, and if you master yourself, you grow, you expand. And once again, queen energy, service energy. So not about so much threes, sort of like as the next dynamic step from the ace, but one that masters itself, one that sets clear boundaries, and one that serves. That's what I wanted to say. The ace and the three are more single-minded, and all the odd cards, because that's the way they are wired in a way, but particularly the aces, fives, and tens. But here the queen says, regal, royal, master that realm. That's where your expansion happens. This placement offers spiritual maturity and the potential to lead through example. The Three of Spades has the capacity for deep inner strength and service, but must learn not to carry burdens alone or to fall into martyrdom. Prosperity arrives when service is given freely, but not at the expense of self-worth. That's actually sort of another call here for that Three of Spades, that it doesn't give too generously. You can only give what you've got, but at the end of the day, you want to have a bit of a reserve back home, because if you're generous, which is nice, Nine of Hearts in Mercury, and Queen of Spades in Jupiter, so very generous person, but then again, make sure that you have enough for yourself. Very important for all the odd cards, or those that have plenty of odd cards in its life path. When we come to Saturn, we'll find the genius card of the Jack of Clubs. Responsibility feels like a clever puzzle. Three of Spades is being taught to mature their thinking, to discipline their creativity, and to use their wit in service to something greater. Challenges arise when they remain stuck in immature or overly clever narratives. Life demands growth into wisdom. But with effort, they can become brilliant educators or storytellers, balancing playfulness with depth. Interesting card here, the Saturn requiring the order, the reliability, the dependability. And here, that Three of Spades gets a Jack. And the Jack wants to play. The Jack doesn't want to grow up. The Jack wants to be creative, just as creative as a three is. So here, under Saturn, life demands growth into wisdom. Use their wit in service of something greater. Mature the thinking. So once again, base energy, Three of Spades, already very creative. And here gets another very creative card, but in the Saturn position. And Saturn says, sort of grow up. Take responsibility. Yes, the threes can handle several projects at the same time. They've got that ability, but also they must be careful not to compromise their health while they're juggling several projects. And they should bring order and structure into them. And order and structure always means a certain amount of limitation, boundaries. Less, actually, when the life of the Three of Spades is about more. They can become brilliant educators or storytellers, balancing playfulness with depth. Under Uranus, we find a diamonds card. We had the Five of Diamonds in Mars, and now all of a sudden we've got the Nine of Diamonds in Uranus. The energy of unexpected release. Through the Nine of Diamonds, sudden changes in finances, social circles, or values can appear, sometimes feeling disruptive, but ultimately bringing evolution. The key is non-attachment, 9. Remember, they already had a red 9 in Mercury. Now they have a red 9 in a red 9 in Uranus. The key is non-attachment, letting go of what no longer serves while honoring its role in their story. This placement grants futuristic insights into the true worth of things, helping the Three of Spades pioneer new systems of value. On the low side, 9s are about disappointments and frustrations. Could be disappointments, frustrations related to value with others, because that's Uranus. But also not being able to handle those sudden changes that Uranus brings about. Because 9 is about endings. And when there's some form of change, that means that the old thing has ended. And for the 9 of Diamonds in Uranus, it's about value systems, ending of value systems. And they may struggle with that. Sudden changes in finances, social circles, or values can appear, feeling disruptive, ultimately bringing evolution. Once again, you need to know that. And once you know that, you can handle it with grace. Grace is certainly needed when we come to Neptune. Here we find 7 of Spades. Remember, we had 2 9s and we had a 7 of clubs in Venus, black 7. Now we have another black 7. 2 red 9s, 2 black 7s. And where did we find that before? Ace of Spades, 3 of Diamonds, 5 of Clubs, because they have 2 red 7s and 2 black 9s. And now we have black 7s and red 9s. Neptune's placement in the 7 of Spades brings a spiritual lesson in trust and faith. The 3 of Spades may struggle with doubt, especially in unseen or intangible realms. But through life's trials, they learn to surrender control and tap into a higher wisdom. Their intuitive abilities become sharp once they stop resisting the unknown and allow the mystery to teach them. A spiritual lesson, Neptune, in trust and faith, 7 of Spades. Also health issues, 7 and Spades, and later in life they need to look out for that. And in general, and the 7 of Spades is a very spiritual card because it's a spiritual number in the spiritual suit. And Neptune can cloud your view and your vision, can deceive you. But the answer is found on the spiritual side because Neptune is a spiritual planet. So on the positive side, there's a tremendous amount of faith and trust there under Neptune. That is like, it's takes like fish to water. On the low side, self-doubt. And not actually connecting in a healthy way to the spiritual realm. And the spiritual realm is always like a dissolution of the self. But the 3 of Spades is very much about the self because it's like the creativity that wants to come to the fore. And they're being given some challenges with that 9 of Hearts in Mercury, with a 7 of Clubs in Venus, and the 5 of Diamonds in Mars. All those odd cards in their first 4 decades. But once they become aware of that 7 of Spades in Neptune, they can really, really use that energy. Because Neptune then sort of, in a way, rewards you as you tune into it, as you tune into dreams, into the unseen realms. And that is obviously always like a very personal journey. And the 7 of Spades supports that because the 7 of Spades is a very internal card. You know, pointing inwards, going silent, and then coming up with brilliant ideas of insights and artistic expression, rather, that is not what's the word common, but that is in the DNA of the 3 of Spades. We have now arrived at Pluto, and there we find the psychologist card, the 2 of Clubs. Pluto's transformative force appears through the 2 of Clubs, a card of partnership and communication. It's a lifetime of learning how to relate deeply with others without losing oneself. Power struggles in communication and collaboration are frequent, but necessary. Ultimately, this placement urges the Three of Spades to transform conversation into communion and shared thinking into sacred alliance. It urges the Three of Spades to transform conversation into communion and shared thinking into sacred alliance. The Two of Clubs is the most uncooperative of the twos. And that's because the Two of Clubs got an Ace of Spades first karma card. And has a King of Clubs and Mercury, giving it a very strong mind, but that makes it difficult to communicate and to collaborate. Shared thinking into sacred alliance. Hook up with other people. That's the lesson here for the Three of Spades, because that is a card of union on the intellectual side. But the Three of Spades is about creativity and versatility in the lifestyle works, on the lifestyle and work side. So here, that Three of Spades needs to learn to commune with someone. It walks a path between mastery and mystery. These 8 planetary cards are not just influences, they're invitations to evolve through emotion, thought, value, and connection, and to do so with the quiet power of someone who has already seen behind the curtain. It's a journey of depth, service, and spiritual artistry, and those who walk it with purpose. Birthdays for the Three of Spades are shown here. Have a look if that one fits. And once again, if you are interested in a consultation or some coaching, please get in touch. If you would like to dive deeper by yourself, then get the app, which is shown in the trailer, but under Sacred Symbols in the App Store and the Play Store, that's where you find the app. And for a mere $2 a month, you'll get the full version with all the extended analysis also on the partnership side, talking about the Two of Clubs here in Pluto. Relationship analysis. How do you relate to other people? How do other people relate to other people? You can do this with the app and freely navigate through the different relationships and learn more and more about them. That is it. We will continue with the Four of Spades. Helmar Rudolph once again says thank you very much for your attention, and bye-bye.